So I asked myself the question, out of all the bass fishing rods that I own, which one can I not live without? Which one is gonna be the most versatile, all-around rod that is gonna allow me to get the most bang for my buck, right? So if that's some of you who are like, hey, I don't have a ton of money, but I do wanna get a bass rod that's freaking awesome, it's gonna allow me to fish a variety of techniques, this is the one. Let me walk you through it. All right, so this rod is really gonna allow you to fish well a variety of different techniques, right? The number one technique, which is incredibly popular out there, is going to be your bladed jigs. It's gonna be great for that. It's gonna allow you to fish your buzz baits. It's gonna allow you to fish Ned rigs. It's gonna allow you to fish spinner baits, which is nice. I know it's super popular. It's my least favorite way to fish. I bring it out when it's time to bring it out, but I don't like fishing it that much, but this rod would be perfect for that. You're gonna be able to fish your smaller swim baits. You're talking like 3/4 ounce to 2 ounces. It's gonna be great for this particular rod. You're gonna be able to fish your Texas rigs, your wacky rigs if you want to. Also your weightless worms, it's gonna be great for this rod. You're gonna be able to fish a shaky head on this bad boy. And also what's great, and something I really picked up this past year, is the Yamatanuki. Actually, I think I have some right here. Getting ready to melt some down, but this is Yamatanuki. This is a really great rod for fishing the Yamatanuki, I believe on a 5/0 hook. And to be honest with you, that's not the only thing you can fish on this rod, but if you like fishing any of those techniques, this is gonna be the rod for you. So what this rod is, it's gonna be your 7.3 medium heavy power, fast action casting rod. This one is made by Impulse. And one of the most frustrating things about rods when you go out and buy them or you look online, a lot of times it'll tell you the specifications of that rod, right? But it never actually tells you what particular lures are great to fish with that rod. It will tell you the length, it will tell you the power, it will tell you the action, it will tell you how much it weighs, it'll tell you how many guides are on it, it'll tell you the grip material, it'll tell you the reel seat, and it will tell you like the weight of the lures to fish on it, but never tells you actually what type of lures. And starting out, it's incredibly frustrating. After a while, you dial it in, you're like, oh yeah, that rod pairs with these particular lures, but starting out, you're like, I don't know, help me out. So hopefully this video is gonna be helpful for you. So knowing what the rod is one thing, but knowing why it's the number one rod every angler should have in their arsenal is another. So let me break it down. I'm gonna share with you what a casting rod is, why length in fishing rods matter, why medium heavy power, why extra fast action. All right, first let's talk about what a casting rod actually is. So a casting rod is designed to be used with a bait caster reel. And so in the hands of an experienced angler, you're gonna be able to get better accuracy and longer casting distance than your traditional spinning reels. All right, so now let's talk about why rod length matters, right? So generally speaking, typical spinning rods are gonna land between 6 feet and 7.5 feet. But when you get to casting rods, these things start typically around 6.5 feet and can go up to 8 feet, even more sometimes. I have a 7-foot, 9-inch ledge rod behind me that I utilize for some of my larger swim baits, which I'll get to some of that stuff in a later video. But generally speaking, what you're looking at when it comes to rod length. Now let me tell you what it does. So on the shorter end of your bait caster rods, we're talking like the 6.5 feet range. These are gonna give you a high degree of accuracy, right? They're gonna take less power to load up, and so it's gonna allow you to get that lure exactly where you want it to be. And so that higher degree of accuracy is gonna be like your 15 yards or less. Okay, so for the medium baitcaster rods, these are gonna be the 7 feet to 8 feet. That's kind of like that range we're looking for. These are the most popular kind of sizes within bass fishing because it has that fine balance between casting distance and accuracy. And this is where this particular rod falls right in the middle of. So next, let's talk about power and action. And make it really simple. Power is how stiff is your rod, right? That's what I want you to think when you think of power. And action is where along the rod blank does it start to bend, right? Your extra fast is gonna bend right at the tip. You're fast, you're moderate, and you're slow. And also remember, the faster the rod action, the more sensitive your rod will be, right? You will rarely see any type of bass fisherman out there using a slow action rod, right, that bends halfway down here. That's typically, you're just gonna have absolute horrible sensitivity with the slow action rod. You see a lot of slow action rods, typically when you get your fly fishing, those parabolic bends are like massive on those guys. Now let's talk about why the rod power and action actually matters, because the rod power and action, the stiffness and where it bends along your rod is really going to affect 3 different things. It's gonna affect your casting distance, it's gonna affect your accuracy, and it's going to affect kind of that lifting power, the amount of power you have to lift that particular bass up and out of maybe lily pads or out of grass. And so that's what your rod is going to inform for you. Now let's talk about the weight and why that matters. And it really matters, in my opinion, based off of how often you fish, right? If you're fishing maybe once or twice a month, you're probably not even going to notice the weight. However, if you're fishing 3-4 times a week and you just have that competitive, you're casting this thing 600 times a morning, ounces really start to matter. This one is incredibly light, right? It's only coming in at 3.7 ounces. And so for the length of this rod, it is incredibly light, and I can throw this thing all day long. Now that we know all of what these rod specifications inform, now we can start to pair lures and line accordingly. So let's walk through that a little bit. As a 7-foot 3-inch rod, you're gonna get that fine balance between casting distance and accuracy, and you're actually gonna get a lot more of that pulling power because it's extra fast. You're transferring a lot of that power down to the stiff part of the blank immediately, which is gonna allow you to pull that fish up and out of cover incredibly fast. You're not gonna be able to pull it up and out of cover like you would a jig rod. Those things are like broomsticks. So being a medium heavy power rod, this is really gonna allow you to fish lures that weigh around 3/8 ounce and over. If you are throwing anything less than 3/8 of an ounce, you might want to opt for a medium power rod. And being fast action, we already mentioned this before, it's going to give you a lot more sensitivity. So you're going to feel a lot more bites, and if you're dragging something along the bottom, you're going to be able to feel just about everything down there. Of course, your line is going to help you with that sensitivity well, depending on what type of line you use, but when it comes to rods, extra fast is going to give you the most sensitivity. Now, knowing what you know, you can see why this rod would be really great for a bladed jig. Spinner baits, small swim baits, 3/8 of an ounce and probably up to 2 ounces. Texas rigs, wacky rigs, weightless worms, and shaky heads that would be perfect for this rod. So the line I'm gonna have paired with this the majority of the time is gonna be a 15-pound fluorocarbon line. As you can see in a lot of the lures that I'm using, my bladed jigs, that heavy plastic I was talking about earlier, that Yamatanuki, that is going to pair incredibly well with a fluorocarbon type line. The fluorocarbon is not gonna stretch that much, so it's gonna allow me to transfer that power to that hook set, and it's also just, it's transparent in the water, right? I don't want the bass to be seeing this line when I'm fishing a bladed jig or I'm fishing that shaky head or the Yamatanuki. So fluorocarbon is gonna be your best bet, in my opinion. And there you have it, the one bass fishing rod that every angler should own, but more importantly than that, and hopefully you have a better understanding of why. Now, I'm not exclusive to Impulse rods, however, I do work with them, and so if you're interested in these particular rods, they are freaking awesome. I have caught hundreds and hundreds of fish this past season alone on these bad boys. You can get a discount code, and I'll put that down in the description below. And here's the thing, you might be fishing a $50 ugly stick from Walmart, not a problem at all. You can slay fish all day long on that, but you might have been scratching your head of why in the world would I upgrade to a $150 rod or up to a $250 rod? Well, I did a video on that too, and you can check that out. The difference between a $50 rod and a $250 rod, you can check that out right there. Thanks guys for watching, see ya.